What up, HyperChange? Welcome to another episode. Today we're talking about Apple's ambitions to get into the transportation industry. Now, rumors about Apple building its own electric car have been persisting for quite some time. In fact, according to multiple reports, this is something that Steve Jobs had thought about. They've been talking about this even pre-iPhone. Anyway, rumors started really heating up back in 2015 when Carl Icahn, the famous investor, put out some research report, open letter to Tim Cook, basically saying that he believed Apple was going to come out with its own branded car by 2020. In 2016, a Bloomberg report hits. Bob Mansfield, one of the leaders of the iPod, legendary visionary Apple exec, comes back, is apparently working on the car project. Amidst this switch up, Mansfield transitions the goal of Apple's car project not to build its own branded car, because apparently that was too hard, and instead they want to build a software platform that allows for a car to drive itself. Maybe they can license it out to other people, maybe they can eventually build their own car out of it, but they scaled it back. Laid off a couple hundred people. So I kind of had thought the car rumors died. Then, in April 2017, Apple is granted a self-driving permit for the state of California, meaning they can test these driverless cars on the roads. This means pretty clearly that they're continuing to do R&D around developing a transportation solution. Then, one of my favorite podcasts, I'm going to put a link, it's called Charged. You guys got to check it out. They're always ahead of the curve on tech news. Awesome insight, just like a unique, fun, chill tech podcast that I recommend everybody listens to. They only make it once a week. I think they should put out more content, but whatever. Anyway, they did a ton of research and figured out, through a bunch of LinkedIn sleuthing, all these executives and employees who have been working for different companies like Tesla and Mitsubishi with specialty in developing lasers for self-driving car technology that have now joined Apple. When I heard this podcast, I was 100% convinced, all right, Apple is putting serious resources behind developing a transportation solution. Is it going to work? Is this a problem for Tesla? Let's see. Is it going to work? Maybe. Is it going to be a problem for Tesla? No. Honestly, I think this car, Apple getting into the car business almost gets too much credit. Morgan Stanley, Adam Jonas came out with a note saying, a big risk of Tesla was that other technology companies are investing in transportation solutions that could compete with Tesla. Well, after taking a deep dive into Apple's plans and ambitions, I'm really, frankly, not impressed by what they're doing and don't view them as a threat to Tesla really at all, at least in the next 3 years. First of all, their whole goal of putting out an Apple-branded car by 2020 seems to have totally gone by the wayside. They've flopped. They've had to step back from that because it looks like it was just too hard. They couldn't do it. Now they're working on this software platform, which sure is okay, but I'm wondering, what's the value in Apple's software platform if they're going to have to integrate it with a Tesla? Isn't Tesla the one building the hardware going to have all the value, and Tesla's building its own self-driving tech? Now, the one thing that Apple has that Tesla doesn't is $172 billion in net cash. That, Tesla only spent $834 million on R&D in all of 2016. Apple has $172 billion in cash. They could spend 10 times what Tesla is spending every year for the next 5 years to try and figure out how to do this. I don't even think if they did that, it would matter. Hear me out. A big reason why I think companies are successful and are able to retain top talent is because they motivate them correctly. Apple's company is already worth $800 billion. Tesla is only worth $50 billion. If I'm getting paid in Tesla stock and I see this vision of disrupting the entire transportation system with a self-driving robot taxi, then the upside in my compensation for Tesla is significantly higher than if I were to work for Apple. Let's call this a $1 trillion opportunity. If this $1 trillion opportunity gets realized for Tesla, my value goes from $50 billion to $1 trillion. That's a 20x increase on the stock options I was paid if I'm coming out of school today looking for a job. On Apple, let's say they develop this same thing and it works. In 20 years, they come out with $1 trillion valuation for their car business, then the company's worth $1.8 trillion. I got a double on my stock options. So this fundamental compensation, structural compensation difference, I think is a big reason why incentives are aligned for the brightest engineers in the world to work for Tesla, not Apple. That's a big competitive advantage for Tesla. The other thing is, Apple, sure, they're working on this like car technology. What about the business side? Tesla has 800 plus superchargers all around the world, and they're building more and more by the day. Like, this is something that's taken them years to build out, hundreds of millions of dollars. Sure, Apple could afford it. It would take them time to negotiate all the leases and build this out, though, and that charging technology, who knows if that's something Apple has. So that's just one piece. The other piece is the Gigafactory. The world's like literally the largest building in the entire world is going to be needed to double the production of lithium-ion batteries to meet demand for Tesla's cars. Like, Apple has no production facility on this scale that they're trying to build. So to compete with Tesla's vertical integration, like, they would have to start building their own Gigafactory. They haven't even started that. Tesla's got a 3-year edge there. Another thing, Tesla has tens of thousands of cars on the road now equipped with Autopilot 2 hardware. This means every single second of every single day that Teslas are driving around, they're collecting more and more data to improve and refine Tesla's self-driving car algorithm. Nobody else has this network effect of self-driving car data that's pouring in. Tesla's widening its gap by the day in terms of this data advantage. I just think this data advantage is going to lead to Tesla building a much better Autopilot product faster than anybody else. So that combination of supercharged network, Gigafactory with vertical integration, and autonomous driving data. Apple is falling behind by the day on every single one of those, and I don't see them stepping up to compete on any level soon. Even though they do have the cash to do all those, they're not doing any of those things, which kind of confuses me. I don't know, so I just kind of think it's like, the only thing that Apple does have going for them is the retail model. Like, they, unlike every other car company, own their own distribution and retail network. Google doesn't have this. Amazon doesn't have this. But Apple does. So if they can actually build a car and come out with it, they do have a great way to sell it, their stores. But I think that's skipping this whole point of, like, A, they actually need to build it, and it looks like they gave up on building their own car because it was too hard. Now they're just doing the software. They're not building the batteries in the car. They're going to have to buy them from someone else. They're not vertically integrated. Like, I just think it's kind of a joke if you think that Apple's going to compete with Tesla in the near term. Maybe in 3 to 4 years, like, Bob Mansfield's an incredible executive. He will figure out how to build a self-driving car, and it will be its own service, and it will be a mega piece of Apple's business, and they have enough cash to make it work. And even, another thing about Apple's cash. The one good thing is that if Apple figures this out and they can launch an on-demand robot taxi service, they could price it and undercut all of the competition because they don't need to make money from it. They just need you to engage with their software and app platform when you're in the car to perhaps justify that entire business line. Therefore, let's say if you ride in the Apple car, it's free, but you have to like listen to a couple ads while you play music. But in the Tesla car, it's still $1 a ride, but it's still $1 a ride when the Apple ride is free. Tesla's gonna have to make money because they don't have this cash cushion that Apple has. So in theory, Apple could outcompete every self-driving car service if it just gave its own thing away for free and tried to outlast them all. But that doesn't really seem like a sustainable, like, solid business strategy. But I do want to give them, like, that's a point worth mentioning. I don't know. I'd be curious, like, what do you guys think about Apple's self-driving car, like, ambitions? Is this real? Is it going to happen? I mean, they have so much money. It makes sense to me that they're, like, exploring projects like this. And they should be hiring engineers to figure it out because transportation is one of the few industries that's big enough and ripe enough for disruption to where if Apple does it, it would move the needle on their earnings significantly, perhaps. That's reason enough alone for them to hire, $50 million worth of engineers to just play around and explore it. Maybe that's all they're doing. But for them to be a real threat and competitor to Tesla, I think we're at least 3 to 4 years off because they need to build out all this infrastructure. Like, the iPhone moment of the car industry is already happening in 2 months when Tesla rolls off the Model 3 off the line and they have 500,000 pre-orders on the books. Like, imagine where we're going to be in a year. Tesla's going to have ironed out Model 3 production. The Semi is going to be built, like, underway, Model Y. Like, by the time Apple comes out with its first car, Tesla will have entered every single other vehicle category and be that much further ahead in all of the steps I mentioned. They won't just have one Gigafactory Apple needs to build, they'll have 10. They won't just have 800 superchargers, they'll have 8,000. I'm waiting for the day for Apple to seriously announce a competitor and be like, we're building out charging, we're gonna launch a car this day, or we're gonna launch a service this day. And until that happens, and until that evidence of a concrete competitor comes out, I don't think, frankly, you can count Apple as competition for Tesla. They don't have a transport product. All the rumors indicate they're at least several years away from getting a transport product out there. And my gut instinct is telling me they tried to build their own car from the ground up. It was too freaking hard. That makes me even more confident and impressed by Tesla and what Elon Musk has done so far. And the other thing is Apple Apple's a $1 trillion company. They're justifying the opportunity that Tesla has in front of them by going after this market so aggressively, even though it's not really their core competency and like it's going to be really hard and Tesla's already 5 steps ahead. The fact that they're trying to push in this direction shows you how big of an opportunity there is to disrupt transportation. Apple's worth $800 billion. I doubt they would be doing something that's only going to be a drop in the bucket relative to their current businesses. Like, they see the grand prize that Tesla's going for. If anything, the fact that Apple's investing this much R&D into a car project validates Tesla's business model. And the bottom line is $172 billion may not be enough because of this equity compensation nuance, where I just think that matters so much. There's only so many smart engineers in the world. Even Apple's cash is never going to be enough to convince the world's leading engineers to stop building for Tesla and start building for them. I guess we'll pick this video back up in like 2020 and see if anything came out of Apple's car plans. Until then, if anything else pops up, I'll be sure to make another episode. But for now, HyperChange is calling it too much hype on Apple's car plans, like not enough logic and ration. If you dive down into it, they are 10, 20 steps behind where Tesla is, in my opinion. So I still think Tesla should not be concerned about Apple until like we see some evidence of a bigger move by them. Anyway, that's HyperChange. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Peace.